Our story today takes us to Villisca, Iowa, a place where life was simple and peaceful. Here, the days flowed easily and the nights were wrapped in a blanket of tranquility. The town was the epitome of an idyllic American community, where everyone knew their neighbors and life was predictable in its serenity. But on the evening of June 10th, 1912, Villisca would be dropped into a profound nightmare that would shake its foundations and haunt its residents for generations to come. The Moores were one such family in this close-knit community. Josiah Moore, a 43-year-old father known for his steadfast work ethic and kindness, and his 39-year-old wife, Sarah, deeply involved in Villisca's Presbyterian Church. Everyone who knew them admired and respected their unwavering faith and commitment to family life. The Moores were more than just churchgoers. They were engaged in the congregation's life, participating in charitable works and community events. Their 4 children, Herman, Mary, Arthur, and Paul, were known for their cheerful demeanor and strong sense of community. Each Sunday, the family would walk the short distance from their home to the church. One evening, the Moore family was joined by 2 special guests, Lena and Ina Stillinger, friends of the Moore children who had come for a sleepover. The girls' laughter and the warmth of their camaraderie filled the Moore household, adding to the sense of familial joy and togetherness. The evening was filled with fun and warmth, making it a picture of domestic happiness. Little did anyone realize that this ordinary night would soon spiral into a grotesque horror that would defy comprehension. As darkness fell over Villisca, an unseen and sinister presence began to creep through the shadows. Unbeknownst to the Moore family, a figure with evil intent had slipped into their neighborhood, silently waiting for the perfect moment to strike. A sense of impending doom grew as the night wore on. The evening had passed uneventfully for the Moores. Josiah Moore, ever the diligent provider, prepared for the night by bringing in an armful of logs. Unbeknownst to him, the simple act of preparing the home for the night would become intertwined with the horrific events about to unfold. The axe he used to chop the wood would soon become a chilling symbol of violence. The familiarity of the evening's activities would turn into an eerie prelude to a scene of unimaginable horror. Inside their home, the Moore family settled in for the night. The house was peaceful and still, with only the occasional creak of the old wooden floors to disturb the silence. Unbeknownst to them, an intruder had already taken refuge in the attic, his presence a silent threat in the night. As the lamps were extinguished and the household succumbed to sleep, the stage was set for a tragedy of unimaginable proportions. The murderer's patience and meticulous planning were about to come to fruition in the most gruesome way. Mary Peckham, a neighbor who had grown accustomed to the Moore's punctuality, noticed that the family had yet to come out of their home to tend the farm for the morning. What began as a simple concern quickly escalated into dread. Mary's repeated attempts to reach out to the Moores were met with an unsettling silence. The eerie silence that enveloped the house prompted an urgent call to Josiah's brother, Ross Moore. When Ross arrived at the Moore residence, the sight that greeted him was one of pure horror. The house, once a sanctuary of familial love, had transformed into a scene of unspeakable brutality. Inside, the lifeless bodies of the Stillinger girls lay in a nightmarish tableau of violence. Their presence, amidst the blood, a stark testament to the brutality of the crime. The Moore family, Josiah, Sarah, and their children, had also been brutally murdered, leaving behind a scene of incomprehensible horror. The scale of the violence, the brutality inflicted on each member, was a stark and haunting contrast to the warmth and safety that defined their lives. Town Marshal Hank Horton, who had often been ridiculed for his stringent enforcement of local laws, was now confronted with a case that far exceeded his capabilities. The investigation quickly intensified, drawing in the sheriff and the National Guard as they struggled to piece together the horrifying puzzle. The entire town was on edge, gripped by fear and a desperate need for answers. The investigation became a community-wide effort, with residents and officials alike grappling with the enormity of the crime. The investigation was marred by a labyrinth of false leads and dead ends. Despite the involvement of the Kansas office of Burns Detective Agency and a parade of suspects, including Josiah's brother-in-law, Sam Mueller, and convicted killer Henry Moore, the case stubbornly refused to yield its secrets. Each clue that was uncovered seemed to lead to more questions rather than answers, deepening the mystery and fueling speculation and fear within the community. Decades later, the Villisca axe murders would receive renewed scrutiny thanks to the efforts of Bill James and daughter Rachel McCarthy James. Their rigorous research unearthed a disturbing pattern of similar brutal attacks across the nation, each one bearing the unmistakable hallmarks of the Villisca crime. The meticulous work of the Jameses involved delving into police records, witness accounts, and patterns of criminal behavior, piecing together a chilling mosaic of violence that spanned years and continents. The killer, later dubbed the Man from the Train, emerged as a shadowy figure who roamed the nation's railways, preying on unsuspecting families and leaving behind a trail of horror and murder. His modus operandi was disturbingly consistent: blunt force attacks with no apparent motive of theft, executed with an eerie and meticulous precision. The concept of a traveling killer who could strike with such regularity and brutality added a new layer of horror to the already chilling case. Through exhaustive investigation, James and McCarthy identified Paul Mueller, a German migrant, as the likely perpetrator. His cross-country journey, marked by brutal crimes and an eventual return to Germany, mirrored the pattern of the Man from the Train with unsettling accuracy. Mueller's life was marked by a series of violent episodes that spanned multiple states, creating a haunting and perplexing pattern that linked him to the Villisca murders. In March 1922, the tranquility of the Bavarian hamlet of Kaifek was shattered by a series of murders that bore striking similarities to the Villisca killings. The Kaifek murders, with their brutal and seemingly inexplicable violence, mirrored the pattern established by the Villisca case. The suspicion fell on Paul Mueller, who, by then, had likely continued his reign of terror amid the chaos of post-war Germany. The similarities between the cases raised the chilling possibility that Mueller's reign of terror extended across continents and decades. The Villisca axe murders remain one of America's most chilling unsolved cases, a dark reminder that sometimes evil lurks not just in the shadows, but also in the heart of seemingly innocent communities. Thank you for joining us as we delved into this dark chapter of history. The search for justice, the pursuit of truth, and the quest to understand the unimaginable continue. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay curious, and remember that history often holds secrets that can illuminate the darkest corners of our past.